federal government delegation was in Libya on a fact-finding mission and ultimately to secure the release of stranded Nigerians who are migrants, whether illegal migrants or there. But that delegation was led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Abike Dabiri, Controller General of Immigrations, Mohammed Babandede, Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Julie Okadonli, Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Sadia Umar Farouk, and the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Mustafa May Haja. Quite a huge one. But our focus today of all these agencies, when these persons return, what happens next? Our concern today is the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Naptip. At their reception in Port Harcourt on arrival, they spoke with them, and one of the persons they spoke with was the DG of Naptip. She said, on arrival, Naptip will profile the returnees to identify those who are real victims of trafficking. The returnees will be counseled by trained personnel, and those with medical conditions will be treated at the agency's facilities. The rehabilitation period will last for 6 months, during which the returnees will be trained on different skills and empowered with tools. And they will be monitored for a minimum of 2 years. Yes, the DG Naptip is here with me. Dame Julie Okadunle, thanks for joining me on Inside.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of things bother Nigerians, and I believe you have been all over the place. Bottom line is, what is that thing that has made people, despite the visible danger about this being trafficked, they still are vulnerable to it? Before I go into the cruise of today.
Well, the truth is that this awareness that we are raising all over Nigeria has made a useful impact, because there's more knowledge now, you know. I mean, people are more informed about the dangers of human trafficking. It's not as bad as it used to be. Well, what I want to say is that we haven't yet gone round all the communities, because the truth is that most of the people who are trafficked are taken from these rural areas where they have little or no access to the internet or even to power. So they can't even watch TVs, even if they have one. So, I mean, we are trying to concentrate more on those areas. So we're going to do more by concentrating on the rural communities and ensuring that we go to every single local government in the whole of the 36 states. I'm sure once that is achieved, our problems will be like 80% solved.
Okay, there came a time we had this unsustained exploitation of forest resources in Nigeria, and the project came up, and the target was the rural communities where these forest reserves are based. And I think one thing we did then was a collaboration with a government agency, a federal government agency, which is a National Orientation Agency. And because they have offices in all the political wards in Nigeria,
Yeah.
do you have plans, or are you collaborating with them?
The truth here is that I've made several efforts to meet with the DG National Orientation Agency, but for one reason or the other, he's been unavailable. We keep missing each other, and very soon, hopefully, we're going to meet with him.
Is there alternative livelihood option for them? But I'm happy you said here that they will be rehabilitated and trained and given skills and empowered with tools. So you have been doing this?
Yes, we have. We've been doing
this. Do you have
this.
testimonies?
Yes, of course, we do. We have testimonies everywhere. We've been doing this over the years. For those who want to also have formal education, they went to universities and they all graduated. We have some of them serving their youth corps, after which we'll give them jobs in Naptip. So we have our success stories. Yeah, I mean, you see, if things are done properly, I mean, you have a success story. For example, after the rehabilitation of the victims, for those who want to start skills like sewing and all of that, we're expected to get a shop for them so that start them up, pay the rent for a year, after which they should be able to stand on their own. But if they're just given the equipment and allowed to go, then they will sell the equipment. So this is a total package. The federal government has given the standing order. The federal government has said, first of all, everybody must come back. Everyone who is desirous of coming back to Nigeria must come back. No single Nigerian will be left behind. Secondly, there's going to be rehabilitation. Rehabilitation in the real sense of the word, and empowerment. After the rehabilitation, they are empowered, so they become useful to themselves and to the society. So the federal government did not bring them back to dump them in Nigeria, not at all. That is far from what the president's vision is. And there's going to be proper rehabilitation and reintegration. And that's why we're using this opportunity to call on all the state governors, because the first batch of returnees come from 19 states. The second batch, they come from 25 states. So what am I trying to say? They all come from various states of the Federation. And so we expect the governors who have been too quiet to join the federal government in this exercise. You know, they can give us finances, they can bring food and all of that to the shelters, you know, and those who are not ready to rehabilitate should not just come and let the world think that they are doing something, take them away and keep them in places that are unbefitting. When you take victims of trafficking, or you take returnees, you're expected to keep them in shelters that have the facilities to take care of them, where you have counselors, well-trained counselors and nurses that are resident in the shelters. Their job is to counsel them, because these are people that have come back broken. These are people that are battered, and you need to calm them down, you know, counsel them. It takes a period of weeks. When they are stable, then during the process of counseling, you're also carrying out medicals, because most of them are not medically fit. They've come back with all sorts of conditions. So while counseling, you're taking care of their medicals, and then after that they are balanced. Then you start talking about skills. What skills do you want? You engage them. They tell you what they want, and then you engage them on those skills. They acquire the skills. For those who want to go back to have a formal education, you put them in a nice school, and then you take care of them. After which, you reintegrate them back slowly into the society.
I'm also happy with the fact that you talked about you monitor them for a minimum of
for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Then once you've profiled, rehabilitated, and monitored, do you have testimonies of how far they have gone? Or do you have those who maybe relapsed and went back?
Well, we have a few who went back. We have some who are married and have settled down and don't even want to be mentioned, you know, for their privacy, which is understandable, and we respect that. We have a lot who have gone into businesses who are doing very well, and we have graduates now who are happy.
Okay, I remember the last you were on Insight, I asked this question: do you adopt the change agent model? Because change agent is using somebody who was trafficked to talk to those who are victims. Are you doing that? Oh
yes, we do that. When we have seminars, we have some of the survivors who come and say something to the audience, to tell them, I was trafficked and now this is where I am, courtesy of the federal government of Nigeria through Naptip.
Okay, because the picture created out there is when they return, they are profiled, they are released to their states, nothing happens. Is that true?
Well, you see, unfortunately, like I said a few minutes ago, the states who are not ready to take these returnees should please not take the returnees. Just leave them alone for the federal government. Mr. President is ready and able and willing to rehabilitate all the returnees, because that is the mandate. The mandate is everyone should come back and everyone should be rehabilitated. So those states who are not ready should just help the federal government, bring the resources, the financial resources, give us money, give us foodstuff, give us toiletries and all of that. And we will take care. We have the Refugee Commission. We have Naptip. There are some government agencies who have the facilities to take care of the people. They should just partner with us instead of trying to make it look like, oh, we are doing something and dumping them after 2 days. They are not expected to be on the streets of Nigeria 2 days after their return. That is not what is expected of anyone.
So, well, I'm happy we have addressed the immediate issues now, because it has been on the news. Over 1,000 Nigerians are back in the country. The next
over 800.
And the concern has been, what happens to them? you have been able to address that, because it was as though, that's why I quickly picked, I'm sure you're surprised I picked on those areas you talked about.
Rehabilitation
now,
is key.
Ultimately, you have been very passionate about breaking the ring of these guys who are involved in trafficking. The head of delegation, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, had talked about the fact that, yes, the government in Libya is very open to ensure that the proper things are done, but the militants are the problem. How are you handling this?
Well, the first phase is what we're doing now, to identify Nigerians in the various detention camps that can be accessed. I hear there are about 14 of them. Before we left Libya, we were able 14 detention camps that we can reach. Before we left Libya, we were able to visit 4 of those camps. The technical crew are on ground, and they are going to identify the rest of the camps and Nigerians in those camps who are willing to come back. We also have Nigerians living in Libya who are not in camps and are willing to come back. So all of those ones will be brought back. When they are safely evacuated and settled, then we go to the second phase, which will be trying to bring out the prisoners, Nigerian prisoners in various prisons in Libya, to come back to Nigeria to continue with their prison sentences. And Nigerians in the camps being controlled by the militias to be released to us and come back to be rehabilitated.
So where lies the position of Nigeria in terms of where we heard, I don't know how it's true, you're the authority here, that Nigerians are sold out for as low as, is it $40? Is it true?
Yes, it is true that Nigerians, not just Nigerians, it is true that the irregular migrants are being sold, sexually exploited, made to do forced labor. They take them to the farms to work, even from the detention camps, and bring them back at night without giving them a dime, you know. So all of that is happening, and it's been happening. They sell them from person to person for the purpose of sexual exploitation and forced labor.
So is there anything that the Nigerian government could do? Because one, we hear the United Nations gives so much to Libya to contain issues of immigration, illegal migrants. And they, in turn, when they do this, sell these migrants and collect hard currency.
Yes, the Nigerian government can hold talks with the EU that those monies should be, you know, given to Nigeria so that we can use it for this rehabilitation exercise. Because the truth is that when you give money to Libya because of the crisis situation, you're giving them a free ticket to do whatever they want to do with the migrants, and they will do whatever it takes to stop the migrants. And that is why we have this problem of selling irregular migrants and organ harvesting and all of that.
Okay, moving on. As we speak, I believe Nigerians are listening to you. There's so much influence from the religious organizations, religious leaders, churches, imams, pastors, bishops, name it. They have so much influence, because I hear even before some of these persons embark on these trips, they are taken to some of these places to be prayed for, wishing them success. What message do you have for them? Because they appear very impervious to this, despite how treacherous this thing looks.
Well, you see, the truth is that knowledge is power. We were in touch with the faith-based organizations, the CSOs, the NGOs, and all of that, all the necessary stakeholders in this fight against human trafficking. And I'm sure now some of these churches are beginning to realize that there's so much trafficking going on, and they're talking to their people. I hear that in some churches, when you're looking for a house help, you go to the church to get a house help. You know, they didn't know that that was a form of trafficking, you know. So now their people are beginning to understand, and they know better, that even these agencies who give out house helps, they are all traffickers. They go to villages, they deceive the parents of these young girls and boys, take them away and give them to homes that pay them directly. And I keep saying it, if you're not paying your house help his or her salary, then you're trafficking, because you cannot pay the salary of somebody who is working for you to a third party. That is purely a case of labor exploitation. And if Naptip hears of it, you'll be arrested, because ignorance is not an excuse.
Okay, so your collaborators now, how well are they flowing with you?
Well,
collaborating towards stopping this?
well, like I said, you know, Naptip cannot do it alone. We have NGOs that we work with that also help us to go around carrying out various sensitization programs. Some of them even help in rehabilitation as well. And the truth is that we need all of society and all of government in this fight. It is not just a federal government fight. You know, everyone needs to come on board. The private sector has not been forthcoming in this fight against human trafficking. Even the corporate organizations are not really forthcoming. So these groups need to come together. Churches, mosques, everyone must come together to fight this fight, because it is a global moral epidemic and it must be stopped.
When you came on this set last time, I asked you, how are you settling in? I know what you said. Now, I'll say a year and counting.
Almost a year.
How's it been?
Well,
you say you're surmounting?
Yeah, I believe so.
Or the challenges are dwarfing you?
I am up to the challenge. So far, so good. I mean, there's no situation really that can overwhelm me or overwhelm my officers in Naptip. We are trained to do this job. We are ready. We are ready and able and willing, and we will do what it takes to stop trafficking. Is it possible,
if all is not provided for the staff, they could collaborate with some of these people who are supposed to be trafficking to make your job difficult?
Well, the truth is that you cannot rule out the possibility of corrupt officers working with these traffickers. But if we hear of any such cases, I mean, they will be dealt with immediately. We've had a few cases like that, and of course, they were dismissed from Naptip because there's zero tolerance for that. And so, and I also want to introduce a lie detector test for investigating officers this year. Every investigating officer must be subjected to a lie detector test every quarter of the year to be sure.
Is it potent?
Yes, it is, to be sure that they are not compromising. Don't forget, we have the JBTF, the Joint Border Task Force. They operate in the Lagos airport with other operatives, and they go through the lie detector test every month.
I watched you and I monitored you. You had a robust, wonderful end of year session for your staff, your stakeholders, and I know what you said. Now, imagine I met you on the 1st of January, and I said, Dame Julie, give a riot act to people who are supposed to be people you're fighting. What would you tell them for this year?
For the traffickers this year, Naptip is ready to prosecute, investigate. In fact, now we're doing a lot of surveillance, and it's not business as usual. We're going to arrest you, we're going to prosecute you, and you will go to jail. It is time for these traffickers to get a better job. Do something useful with your life and stop human trafficking, because Naptip will come after you big time.
We're winding down now. So the would-be victims,
I would advise them, please do not get carried away by false promises for a better life. There is good life in Nigeria. There are opportunities to key into. Do not listen to anybody promising you anything. Call Naptip for advice. It's as simple as that. And then we'll advise you accordingly. And to the parents, don't give up your children so easily. Educate them, enlighten them. There is a lot they can do in Nigeria and become useful citizens of this country.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Dame Julie Okadonle, DG Naptip. It was nice talking with you on Inside.
Thank you for having me.
I believe the advocacy is open-ended. We'll sustain it. And I believe also the corporate Nigeria you talked about, I've listened to you. It is not all about milking money from Nigerians or from the Nigerian system. You should also plow back.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Up next on Inside.